So I'm going to go and just simply review the last bit, which is how you read a file. Okay. And again, we'll be working with Dracula. Okay. But first, we actually have to talk about file paths and the like. So, and this will be very confusing because half of you are going to be running, the instructions won't make any sense. And for the other half of you, the other instructions won't make any sense because Windows and Macs use different file systems. Okay. So let's go ahead and I just want to check one. Oh, right. I can just simply go into here. Let's see. Come on. Sorry, give me a second. There we go. Actually, this is going to make a lot more sense now. Great. So I'm over here. So one of the wonderful things about Windows is that it has it's created a subsystem for Linux, which means I can run a very quick Linux virtual machine, which is good. Now, that may have been just a bunch of gibberish to a bunch of you. So basically we have there are different systems. There are two primary systems of two primary families of operating systems: your Windows-based and your Unix-based operating systems. Windows-based are pretty obvious. It's what people refer to as PCs these days, which just simply means personal computer. Windows is a specific environment built with specific commands, built off of DOS. So that's built one way. Another way are systems based off of operating system called Unix. Now, you've probably never actually directly used something called Unix before, but if you've used a Unix-based system before, be it on one of your cell phones, because Android, and I'm betting iOS is Unix-based. Not 100, I'm 90% certain, but not 100. Android is based on, uses a Linux kernel, which is Unix-based. So what in the world is Unix? It's just simply a very strong, very powerful operating system that has been forked and emulated multiple times. Mac OS X is a Unix-based system. So is Linux, which means that they'll follow the same hierarchy. So you'll be able to follow, when I'm talking about the file system on Ubuntu, on my computer, Ubuntu being a certain flavor of Linux, you will be able to map that over to your Macs if you're using that, okay? Similarly, for my Windows operating system, you really that should be simple. That should be straightforward enough. Okay. So today, unfortunately, I'm afraid I'm going to have to talk about the command line. Okay. Because we'll do that. But not in too much detail. Might actually be able to avoid it. We'll see. So, the first thing we're going to do, so let's start with the reviewing of this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drop a link in chat, okay? And before you do anything within it, wait just a second, just open it up, okay? You're going to want to save that, you're going to want to save this, what I just sent in chat. It is a copy of Dracula. It's out of public domain, which means it's free to download. You're not going to get in trouble for downloading this. It also means you could totally make a book, bind it, and sell it. So what you want to do is you'll want to save it. Now, it might want to save as 354-0 because that's the file name, but just go ahead and give it a more memorable name like Dracula, like I did. Okay, and put it somewhere wherever you're going to be working on your Python file. Okay. You can save by right-clicking, save page as. You can Control S to save as, or if you're on a Mac, you can Control click, or you can super save. You do not need to add the .txt. I don't think it should add it for you. If you, especially on Windows, if you see this, just simply rename whatever you see as 354-0, or if you just want to, you can just simply save it as 354-0. To save as Mac, try control clicking and save page as, or command save S.
Yeah, commands as work.
Command S. And that's what I meant by super. Because that's the key I have to press. I have to press my super key. When in the world is the super key? It's the key that's not Control or Alt. I don't know why you would want to save as a web archive. If when in doubt, Control A, copy all the text and save it. Otherwise, just make or just save a paragraph and put it into a new .txt file and use that. Okay. Because the important thing is reading this file as opposed to right. It's important to read it. It's okay if you don't read the whole thing. You can figure it out later, but I need you to make sure that you've got an example that's going to work. Okay. So over here, there's a couple. So what I've done is I've saved it on my desktop, but you're going to want to save it, you know, wherever you're going to be working. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new file here. I'm going to call it, okay, file reading part 2, py. And of course it did not. So properties, I'm not showing the full name of it. Aha, it didn't want to show the full name of that. Give me a second. Go to desktop, view, show, file name extensions. There we go. No, you do not want the PDF. The PDF is the opposite of okay. It's just a text file. I sent it. It's a text file. It's stored on the internet. You can right click it and save it. And if you don't have it, I can just suppose I can just drop it in chat. But a PDF file is definitely not okay. PDF is a binary file. So here is a file for everybody in chat. You can download it. And again, put it where you want, wherever you want to be working on your computer. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and open this in, yes, open. Okay. So now, no, we don't convert it. It's just a text file. This is I just simply created my own file for my own way to have an empty Python file for working in. So this text file is, so we're going to need to use multiple files here. So first off, let's create a, let's go ahead and create this file. Let's go ahead and learn how to read this. So regardless of what operating system you're in, as long as you're in the same folder, there's nothing really to worry about in terms of path issues. So here's what you need to do. Open, and then you'll want the file name that you have for this, that like we did last time, Dracula.txt or whatever name you've had. You don't have to have Dracula open. It just needs to be in the same place. You can put it on, you can do it in idle if you want to, that's fine. It just opened up in VS Code for me. It's no different. The output is just going to be on the bottom instead for me. Okay, so open Dracula.txt. Then you're going to want to put in another argument, R. Nope, you don't need different file types based on the operating system. That would be insane. It's just the pathing and understanding how your path works matters for your system, or specifically for absolute paths, which we never use because using absolute paths are terrible because they're not cross-compatible with operating systems, whereas relative paths are. But in order to understand how relative pathing works, you got to understand how Unix systems like to store their files or the directory structure. And then finally, what we'll need is something called encoding and then UTF-8, because this is a UTF-8 file, which is the specific type of text encoding, which allows it to show more than just your standard English letters. Okay. Call this data or call it text and go ahead and run it. Okay. If it works, give me one. If it works, then great. If on the other hand, you misspelled it like Dracul, you should get an error. If the file doesn't exist or you're not in the same place, you'll get an error. That's why I say it's easy to mess up if you just don't follow the directions for it. So let me go ahead and up the font size and up the font size for the console. Okay, 1 second. Terminal font size. There we go. So here, when I misspelled it as Dracul, as you can see, it gave me a no such file or directory. So go ahead and try it on your own operating system and see if it works. See if you can at least do this step. This is basically saying, yep, I was able to find the file. If you get no output, awesome. After you save it from the website onto your computer, that's it. You just store it where you put it wherever you're going to be working on your Python files. If you're just working on an iPad and can't really do that today, that's okay. That's okay. I'm just trying to show you how it's going to work. Corrine, what do you mean? Your editor.
When I ran it, in idle, it gave me
Oh, let me guess. You printed it. Or did it print it out?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it gives you the file path. It gave you something like this?
Yes.
Yes, exactly. That's good.
Where it says users, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Okay. So this is made up of 3 parts, 2 of which were required. The third is required only for this file. Okay. So we're doing file reading. So let's go ahead and explain this. Open has 3 parts. The first is the file we want to open. Okay. The second is the R is how do we want to interact with this file? And the R means means we're going to read it. So no file exists, like I said. So I'll get to those issues in a second. So the R means I want to interact with this by reading. There are 3 ways we can interact with a file: reading, writing, and appending. We'll cover them all today, but right now we just want to read a file, right? And finally, encoding is equal to UTF-8. The encoding means is that there's different ways of text being represented. So different bits can mean different configurations of bits can mean different things, right? Everything on the computer is just a bunch of 1s and 0s. This tells the computer how to read this particular bunches of 1s and 0s, because by default Python's going to try to read it like it's at least for me, like it's on under the standard Windows configuration, which it's not. It's UTF-8, which is, I don't know why it's not the default for everything, because it is the standard for the web. Now, from a lot of these errors, you got to make sure, how did I get UTF-8? Because when I downloaded this file, if you look on my page, it says plain text UTF-8. That's how I know. So, okay. So are you sure it's in the same place, in the same folder? Are you sure you didn't misspell it? I just covered, but the point of the encoding is so that I can read it, so that the file can read, so it understands how to translate the zeros and ones. Okay. So, yep, you have to have. Okay, if you can't download it, what I sent in chat, try downloading the first thing, this file again, or just copying a paragraph and creating it. Sorry. It is always case sensitive. Everything in computer science is case sensitive. So you need to make sure that they are in the same place. So for instance, they could be on my desktop, or I could throw this over here. Let me close this so I can actually interact with the file. And I could move it over here into my home folder. That's what it's called. Throw it into here. And so long as they're both in the same place, it will work. See, no worries, no problems there. So it was able to run it just fine because it's in the same folder. Okay, so all I did was I took the file that I'm using and the file that I wrote to test it. The other file that I did is just simply the file that has this. The whole open up this file. So I've created two files. I have the text file I want to read and the tool I'm going to be reading with it. How do you get it? You write it. You write that Python file. I want you to type this all in. Data is equal to open Dracula.txt. R encoding is equal to UTF-8. Okay. Who's still having issues? Nothing is supposed to run. You're just not supposed to get an error. If nothing happens, that is great. Mine is on the no such file. Yes. So Dracula.txt. All right. File isn't opening even though it is on your desktop. Okay, couple things. Are you sure it's called Dracula.txt? Did you possibly accidentally save it as Dracula.txt.txt? Or did you not change it in the first place? Is it?
Professor, one thing that I found that works is that if you do C and then do :/user/
Nope.
Your name.
Don't do that.
You don't need to do that?
Don't do that.
Oh, interesting.
Don't
I
do
get the
that.
same
That is
error.
absolute pathing, and that will not work. And that will be gibberish for anybody on this computer who's in this class who's using a Mac.
Oh, I'm talking about for PC users or Windows users, because otherwise it won't work.
It'll work. I'm working on Windows right now.
Yeah, I don't know.
If
I had
they've
the
got-
same issue that a lot of other people are having.
I wouldn't necessarily. Okay, end of line while scanning string literal after running it. Both files are in the same place. Interesting. Okay, Melody. Do you mind sharing your screen for a sec?
No, I'm gonna share.
Okay. I know, I'm sorry this is going slow for everybody, but it's very important to see because if I can fix 1 or 2 errors, then it should fix 1 or 2 errors for everybody. Okay, go ahead and go.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
So here's the Python
Okay.
file,
So
and
hold on.
then are here.
Dracula.
The Python
Dracula
one. and this is
test.
Dracula.
Okay. You're in CIS, Dracula test. Okay. So go ahead and
Run.
yeah, that's the issue. You've got text written out rather than TXT.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now try it.
Let me wait a second.
It doesn't really matter what the what they're called.
So you're supposed to be TXT, right?
Yep, save it.
So let's.
And then yeah, you've got, yep, press OK. And then as somebody pointed out, you've got an extra quotation mark.
Oh, sorry about that.
No worries. Again, part of being human is that you see what you want to
all
see.
right. Now it worked.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Next, Nisa. Nisa Zaman, are you willing to share your screen? Okay, go ahead. Share your screen and let's see what's going on there. Okay, so great. You've got Dracula.txt. It is currently, so let's go ahead and I wanted to see. So you've got it in u/user/2cat documents Python class 107.py. Excellent. And then you've got Dracula.txt. Okay, which should work. Okay, so go ahead and run it. No such file or directory, Dracula.txt. Okay, so now go ahead and click on your folder and let me see what is it. So you've got a Dracula.txt there. I don't think they're necessarily in the same, they're not where you think they are. That file is not where you think it is. So notice, so here, don't do anything. I'm about to annotate on your screen. That file is called Python class, and then you created a text file there. That's not actually the file you're currently running, because the file, if you're checking, so if you look over here, that tells you where your Python file is. And it's in users, tootcat documents, and that's in your documents folder. This untitled folder, I'm thinking that's on your desktop, right? Yeah. So you want to move that file that you just, the one that I'm talking about, into that folder. So again, pathing issues. You got to make sure the files you're working on are in the same place. It's very easy if you don't know where to look, and you've never had to look before is a big part of the difficulties here. If it's working on idle but not Visual Studio, that is because I have no idea why.
I think I figured it out on Visual Studios. So if you go on the side, there's the open editors, and then there's a folder
right
underneath open editors, and you have to make sure that you're in that folder.
Yes, you have to care about whether you're in the folder or not. To save it as an idle, you just have to move you have to just move that file into the folder that Dracula is in, or you just save as and save it somewhere else. Okay. So again, I'm going to go ahead and move forward over here. So a lot of what's going on. So, okay, we've got a file. Now it's ready to read. If we print this out, we're going to see that we've got, and now I've got sorry, I remember I have to share my screen, blah, blah, blah. Oh, okay. So if we print out this, I don't need it. Okay. So there we go. Run it. Okay, no Dracula.txt. Right. And I bet you're getting this, right? Even though, because you said it won't work in Visual Studio Code, right? So part of that is, I think you need to have the extension, manage, trust. Okay, Python extension is now enabled. Oh, it was working earlier, right? Right, everybody, or did I just lose everybody?
Yeah, it was. No, it's funny.
Okay. So why isn't it working? Well, let's see. Saying, let's go ahead and see. So it says on this, no Dracula.txt, no read. Rename. TXT. Sure, it's not misspelled. Open. Workspace trust. In a trusted. So this window is trusted. Yes, I get it. Run as Python file in terminal. Interesting. Interesting indeed. It was not. And Python. It's so interesting that it was working earlier. Yeah, whatever. Open. Boop. Desktop. Don't know why it wasn't. There we go. And that should just be fine. Okay. Probably has something to do with security features, but regardless. We've got, so now I've got the file and now I've got this. If I print it out, it doesn't really do anything, but to read the file now, we can do it one of three ways. Reading a file is extremely easy in Python. Very, very easy. The first way we can do it is just simply by storing it in a big string. Text is equal to data.read. And there. Now I've read the entire file and it's now in text. Okay. Let's see. There we go. And notice it says squeeze text 27,500. So it basically says, hey, this is very long. Expanding it could make your computer unresponsive. Please don't do that. So instead, what I'm going to do rather than printing out, so believe it or not, printing out text, even it may not seem like it, but a lot of stuff is just not prepared to do that. No, it was working for me in idle. Just okay. So now let's go ahead and just actually print out a more reasonable amount. I'm going to print out, oh, let's say 10,000 characters. Right. So this is just a slice operation. And there we go. And we can see that we've printed it. Now, it's important that you did the encoding equals UTF-8. Otherwise, you might get an IO error. And that's just really applies for Dracula. If I leave it out, you'll see that it reads it properly, and then you'll get you get a Unicode decode error. So because it wants to, because this file apparently has special characters in it. So. And the squeezed, again, isn't actually, that's not actually the output. That's a feature of idle. All that's doing is just simply saying that it's a lot of text to display all at once. Okay. If I printed out just the first, 100 characters, it's going to have no problem. Right? There's the first 100 characters. No problem to print it out. We can also, so that's the first way to read it. The squeezed is just there because otherwise you're going to be waiting forever for every single thing to come out because that's just there. Why do we need read? Because read is a method. This tells open how you're interacting with the file. This tells us how we want to read it. Data.read is the first way to read it. The second way to to do this, and I'm going to comment it out, and it's important that you comment this out. Otherwise, it's going to be otherwise nothing's going to happen. Lines is equal to data dot read lines. That worked. So now actually one cool thing about over here is that I'm not sure what the IO error you're getting is. But just try your best to keep up with this. Thank you, Emily, for posting that in chat. We can actually take a look at lines right here. This is part of the reason why idle is pretty nice. I can just go ahead and say, okay, what is lines at index 8 using this ebook? And if we go to the file over here, go to the file over here and open it. Line 9, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, using this ebook. It does it line by line. It basically stores each individual line as a string. So this first way basically grabs the entire string, basically takes the text file and dumps it into a string. The second way takes the entire text file line by line and stores each line as a string. Oh yeah, there's totally going to be quizzes on this stuff and your lab on it. So with the whole headache that you've had, that a lot of you just had with downloading the file, this is me emphasizing why it's important that you unzip the file that in your homework, the way I specified that, and work inside that folder and not move the files inside of it. Okay, so lines is equal to data read. Now, both of these are completely correct ways to do it. They just, you can use either you prefer. One way I like to do things is the last way, which is for line, which to treat it like a for loop, treat it like a collection. For line and data, print. And now you're going to see what I mean. Print out the line. Now that you'll see what I mean by it says that it takes forever to print it out, because it does. It's not actually printing all that fast, believe it or not. I mean, so there, and it's going through and reading the entire file line by line and printing it out. Now it's printing out an extra line in between every line, because at the end of every line in the file is a new line. And so it's printing out that new line character. So we get, and then it's putting it its own new line character. So that's why we're getting 2 lines, because the new lines are part of a file, if that makes sense to everybody. And see, it's just going to go for a while. That is why you have squeezed text, by the way. So I'm going to terminate this. So if it's going to be used, how should we figure?
So can you do line, comma, and equals? And
Yeah,
then,
I could
so
do
that
that.
it doesn't create that. And what's
Matt,
the
I'm going to have
other
to take
one?
a look at your thing in particular. Sorry, Ezra.
No worries.
Matt, I'll have to take a
What's
look
the-
at your thing in particular, because I have no idea why you're getting an IO. What are you working on? Are you working on an iPad or something? Window. I have no idea why, but as far as the quizzes, the files will be just there and you won't have to worry about like locating them. They'll be there on the online in Runestone and be able to activate and be able to access there. Nope, don't have to download the files for the quiz. They'll all be online. They'll just be able to be read in your browser. As far as no file, make sure they're in the right place. Make sure you're using the right thing. Make sure that if you're using VS Code, check if you're having issues with it, which is changing things to have to have the appropriate settings. No, we're not submitting this as work as Canvas. I'm trying to go through and just make sure that everybody can kind of do this. Now, the reason the reason this is all important is because of our next assignment that is coming up. So Hirab, did you put encoding is equal to UTF-8?
Yes.
That's interesting that you weren't able to decode it. Did the double quotes matter? No. Single quotes and double quotes don't really matter there. I have no idea why. What you'll want to look that up again. I'll probably terminate class early so I can work with students individually on this, because this is generally a bit of a headache for students. I'll take a look at what other students have in just a second. Yes, I'll take a look at Ben, especially after class. So let's go ahead and just take a look at our upcoming assignment. Okay, which is the hurricane tracker. And you'll notice that I have this big bold text here, which says that basically if you get an error due to a misplaced file, it's an instant zero due to with no appeal, because I had a lot of students do that last semester and they struggled to figure out why it wasn't reading it. They didn't even know why, which meant that they hadn't done the work somewhere. So yeah, now the way it works is you just download the zip file over here. And we can just simply drop it onto the desktop or wherever you're going to want to do. And then I'll be able to, I'm just going to extract it with 7-zip. I'll extract it here. Yep, for this assignment in particular. Because I would have a lot of students who would turn in who would just simply run their code like this, like Irma was outside of the entire structure, and they run it and it was completed, and they'd have no idea why it was not working, which meant that basically they didn't do the work. What I'm saying is that I had a number of students plagiarize, but I couldn't prove they plagiarized. So what you're going to get for this lab is this bundle. You unzip it and you work inside the bundle. Okay. You unzip it and you work inside the bundle. And see. So let's see. Yeah, it's interesting that we don't get that error there. So I wasn't getting it yesterday. How fascinating. So let's go ahead and go into starter files, go to Irma. I'm going to go ahead and run it. And we'll see that basically that, so give me a second, turtle.done. So you saw it flicker and go away. That's okay for right now. It's really all we need. But basically you should get a window going up like this if we run it. If it's not located in the same place, you're going to get a file not found exception. And what happened is last semester, again, I had a lot of students who had this outside of their code, or they would download it, and they'd have no idea why it wasn't working, even though the work they were supposed to do, which is this part over here, was completely filled out with the answer. Okay. And that meant that they had written the entire thing correctly without ever testing it once? Question mark? That seems very skeptical. I'm very skeptical of that. So anyway, now inside you'll notice that there are no extra folders. Sorry, no extra files. Well, technically there are, because folders are files. They just happen to be files with files inside of them. and that they are CSV files, comma separated value files in one, and we've got some images in the other. So how in the world do I read files if they're in a different place than my other file? Maybe. So how do I work with this? So let's go ahead and again, I'm gonna have to check that link that Emily sent because I have no idea why. Add folder. You know what? Yes, add desktop trust folder. Boom. Trust. There we go. Okay. Why am I able to run it? Because of using that method rather than using another method. There we go. Okay, cool. So back in VS Code. That's great. So we've got our 3 ways to open a file. And you can work with a file, but what if to say the file is now somewhere else? Let's go ahead and put it in a folder called my text stuff. Okay, and I put it in here. So now Dracula is hiding inside this folder called my text stuff. Okay. Now we can't find it. Well, it's inside a folder. Now to look for something inside a folder, the way I do that is I put the folder name. If my file is in the same folder as this, my text stuff over here, then the way it works is I do, my file is that I would have to do open my text stuff / Dracula.txt. And what that means is look in the folder called my text stuff and look inside of it and then look for the file called Dracula.txt. And it works just fine now. Be able to read it just fine. Make sense? So this is what we call a relative path because it's relative to the file that I'm currently running. So this is my current and in terms of Unix commands and Python and Windows now recognizes this too, which is that basically we consider dot to be here, my current location, where I currently am. I'm saying from where I currently am, look inside the folder that I'm currently in. You see the thing called my text stuff? Look inside of that. You see the thing called Dracula.txt? That's my target. Make sense? Now the / is understood the vast majority of the time, so you don't need it. Okay. Okay. Now here's the trickier. Now here's the fun thing. Let's go ahead and I will take I'll take this folder and I'm going to move it up here. Now how in the world do I find this? I've moved it from, so this is currently on my desktop. But the folder that this is in what's called my home folder.
You would do the / my home folder / my text stuff.
Yeah, there's a couple ways we can do that. The first is that the home folder has a specific designation, but that's not necessarily what I'm going to do. So your home folder holds basically everything. Your home folder holds basically everything. And that is like, notice them on my documents, my downloads, my pictures are all here. So my desktop is inside this folder and it's also holding the my text stuff. So to go up a folder, you go ... 2 dots to go up. And then I can do, just simply ... to go up a folder and say up a folder inside my text dot inside Dracula. Now, rarely you're going to have to go up a folder to find stuff, by the way. Very, in fact, I don't recommend it, but this is still all relative. It is all relative to the position where I am currently standing. Okay. So now what this comes down to is that basically there are a couple different ways that files are organized in systems. Well, primarily two. The way your PC, the way the PC organizes it is that it organizes everything on a local drive like this. So, for instance, I go to C drive, and then if I want to go to my home folder, I go to users and then profile, which is me. And then there's all this, there's my home folder. Let me copy this into the terminal so you can see it. Right, you can see that, and then CD, I can change to that directory, and LS to list everything in that directory. And you can see that it's here, my tech stuff. It's C, so notice that it's C://user/profile. Oh, wait. I just noticed something. Well, I didn't just notice something. I'm doing this for comedic effect. There's something different. Something weird going on, right? What's the difference between the paths, besides one being relative and one being absolute? So here's what I mean. Here's one path. Here's the other path. What's the difference in the way they're presented? Yes, Windows has the wrong slashes. Windows is using the wrong slashes. Every other reasonable format uses this slash. What is that? The // Everybody uses the // but Windows uses the \\, and they've given up, and you know, you can now be backwards compatible. So if I go CD / my tech stuff over here, it automatically just changed it to the other one, to the / at once. No, don't need to. Didn't have to over here, right? I'm on Windows, didn't have to use it. Windows will, your programming language, and Windows will automatically convert it for you. Always use /. always use the /. And there's actually tools in the operating system package on Python to create the path correctly for us. So there's another way we can read the file, though, as I just kind of mentioned, which is the absolute path. No, you don't have to do any of this for that, for your hurricane path. For your hurricane assignment, a lot of this is automatically done for you for this one. In the Irma setup folder right over here, a lot of this has already been done for you. Notice that over here, it's loading up a photo, and it's in the images folder. So it's wherever this thing is, and it's saying, look in the images folder where I am and find the Atlantic Basin picture. The only thing you're going to need to know how to do is how to read this file, the Irma file inside here, which means open Irma. So all you have to do is open data / Irma, and you're good to go. It's all in the same folder. Yep. So Irma, so the file you're working on, the pictures that it uses, the data, it's all in the same folder. All right, if I go ahead and run it, works just fine. And you saw that it flickered like that for a second. That's okay. You're going to get that flicker if you're working in VS Code. To avoid that, you just do turtle.done over here. And now it will stay up. And so what you're going to, for your Irma file, what you're going to want to do is read this. The description, the description that's on the Canvas page goes into way more detail about how this works, including what a finished product looks like. but it's just making sure that basically if you're unsure, download this, run it, right? But make sure that everything that you're working inside this folder, inside the starters side folder. Okay. So now, what about the other ways to interact with? So that is the way Windows does these kind of things. So I can find Dracula, by the way, by just typing in the Windows location, which is C:, hold on, I think I had it copied. Yeah, C:/user/profile/ my text stuff / Dracula.txt. Oh, let me guess. I have to do / / / / / and / over here because that's the escape character. Oh, and I have to do that as well. Okay. And that doing this, it's able to read the file, right? I can show you text, print text, print the first 2,000 characters of this file of this. Great, awesome. So now the cool thing is that no matter where my no matter where the Python file is on the computer, I can read the Dracula file. Turtle.done. The word turtle .done with parentheses. Okay. Okay. So text. So what? So this is great because it will, no matter where I put this particular file, it's going to be able to read it. However, you should use this technique, which is called the absolute path, as an absolute last resort. Why? Any takers as to why I should use this as the absolute last resort?
Too much room for error.
That's all three. I've gotten 3 excellent answers, all of which are correct. The first is that this doesn't necessarily work on Mac because again, that those slashes are all going the wrong way. And the format, as we'll see for Macs, are different. And I'll show you how things work on Macs in just a second. The second is, somebody said it's too much room for error. Yeah, that's yet another way to introduce human error. And the third is that it only works on your computer because it's looking for your username. But if you need to, that's the way to do it. You find exactly where it is, you copy that path and use it. Now on a Mac, how does this work? Well, Macs work off the Unix structure, which is identical to the way Linux is. So at the top of your structure in a Windows computer, and if you're on a Linux computer or a Unix computer or a Mac, and if you're on Windows, don't tune out because 70% of all servers run Mac. Don't run Mac. They run Linux, which uses the exact same folder structure. So good to know. And if you're working on Windows or Mac, you're only going to go so far without interacting with Linux at some point. So over here, we have a bunch of stuff. This is the way you'll see if you look at the top directory of a Mac, which is referred to as root. Okay. And you'll see we have a bunch of folders. And root is indicated by having a single /. Okay. So it would look like this. That is root. That single /. That is root. So it will have a bunch of folders in it. User in this case does not actually have it. It has different configuration files. There's opt, there's media, there's etc. It's actually very well laid out and stuff. But what you'll want is what you're probably looking for is home. That's where all the user folders are kept. And then That's where my folders are kept for this kind of stuff. So if I'm working in, so if you're working in a Mac, your desktop folder and your document folder would be located in here, inside this folder, inside the /home/username folder, or slash, or in the case of Mac, it might be slash, I think it's /users/home/username. So how do you get to the above folder? You do ... It's not nearly as complicated as I've made it sound. I've just tried to kind of talk about relative and absolute paths. Okay. And now with so file reading is actually particularly not bad to do. And we're going to do some exercises with it in the textbook. Now, how does this work in the textbook? And why am I going on about this? Well, as I mentioned in the videos, a lot of my questions on the final exam rely off of reading a file. Because that allows me to give you a boatload of input all at once that you would then have to parse through. So again, typical last semester, my final exam question was, here's a bunch of our health insurance accounts. Please remove all the health insurance numbers from it before we disseminate this personally identifiable information. So, oh, didn't need to go into here. Needed to go into Runestone. By the way, the grade, I'll be merging the grades again tonight, so you should get that updated. But let's take a look. If we look over here in Exploring Common Word and SETI, which I'll try to do on Tuesday, we'll see that there is a file here called data file words.5000.csv. And I went over what CSV files were in the videos that I recorded for you. But the way I just opened this file, which they said exists here, is I just simply type open like we did earlier. And I'll take the file name. And I'll just put in R. We only had to do the encoding UTF-8 because that was this weird thing that was going on with Dracula where it was specifically a UTF-8 file. Otherwise, this will almost all, and that is only something you have to do if it doesn't work and you get a Unicode error the first time you try it. So you know how to fix it now if you get that issue. So there, and as you can see, I get a, hey, it worked. Okay, let me print out the first 4 line in data print line. And now, as you'll see, we've got this file printing out in our web browser. So when we're working in our web browser on this file stuff, it will be fairly simple. You will just get this, data file and it will work. Make sense? It's already there for you. You don't have to download anything. But for working on your own computer, especially with this upcoming assignment, it's very important. This took a lot longer than I expected to take, by the way, to try to hammer out issues. Okay. And again, the reason that I've taken so long about it is that we saw in chat how many people are still having issues with this. And it can be just simply little things that go wrong that you don't notice. All right. So I think for the last 20 minutes of class, I will stay behind and I'm going to try to work with individual students who are having issues with this. Okay. So if everything is working for you, I'm sorry that was a short lecture, but I'm just trying to make sure that basically everybody can keep working moving forward. Sound good? And if you have other questions, you can stay behind. And yes, I plan on running the auto graders. I've been running them periodically over the past couple of days.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So who's still here that needs to, who wants to show me their screen and show me what's going wrong?
I can, Professor.
Okay. Okay, so go ahead. Just go ahead first. I'm going to stop recording.